writing principles. In this module, we are going to cover the key elements of your writing: voice, tone, and flow. And then we're going to dive deep into the 4 rules for great writing. So firstly, voice. Your voice is your personal branding. It's who you are as a writer, what people should expect of you, and it's shaped by your background, your interests, your personality, and it's just your writing style. It helps the reader connect with you from the beginning to the end of your content, and it should be consistent throughout all your work, especially if you have an online presence as a writer. To be honest, you don't need to consciously think about or try and form your voice. It's already there. You just have to embrace it, be aware of it, build on it, and use it to your advantage. Now, the key thing to remember here is that you're a content writer. You are not a non-fiction writer. We are not creating characters. We're just being ourselves. If you are 55-year-old Deborah from Woking, then be 55-year-old Deborah from Woking. Don't try and write online, pretend and sound like you're Miley Cyrus or something, because it might be funny and it might be like cute for you to start with, but it's just going to be a lot of hard work. The readers are immediately going to know that something's up, and it's just going to come across as a bit corny and a bit embarrassing. Just be true to who you are. And it's fine to be funny and flamboyant as long as it's actually a part of your personality, as long as you can actually back it up. And if somebody meets you in real life, they can be like, oh, you're actually like this. Then it's fine. You're completely covered. The last thing to mention here is that a company's voice is more important than your voice. So if you're working for a company or a client, then you need to subdue your own personality in your voice, and you need to speak on the company's behalf. So some might have quite formal rules for this. Some magazines or newspapers have like house style rules where they spell out exactly how they like things written. But if you don't have that guideline to follow, just have a read through some of their existing work and make sure that what you create for them is consistent with that. So if you want a great example of voice, I don't know if this is just a British thing, but for me, Scottish tweets are like the strongest voice ever. The minute I read them, I can hear the Scottish accent in my head crystal clear. I can't do it out loud. I'm not going to read these out. I'm going to give you a minute to read them. Hopefully you'll hear the Scottish as well, and then I will translate them in English. Okay. Penchers love going on buses when it's roasted and shit in the windows. Ah, yes, boil me alive, Agnes. Beat me with a ladle and call me lentil soup. Mental what a couple of fairy lights can do. You could put them on a dead body and I'd be like, oh my God, that's fucking lovely. Get that on my Instagram. When you push a pull door and the person behind you says you need to pull. Aye, cheers, lad. Sure. Next thing was to start lifting from the bottom. I'm at a stage where people are asking, so what are you doing with your life? And I'm like, mate, I'm genuinely just here for a laugh. These are obviously a really extreme example. Fine on Twitter, you don't want to be writing your content like this. But for me, this is just something that always stands out as like, I can hear that voice and I can relate to it and I get it straight away. It's almost like their personality comes straight through. A bad example of voice would be me trying to replicate this when it doesn't come naturally to me. If I wrote a blog and it was something to do with Scotland and I tried to do this throughout it, maybe if you'd never been to Scotland and you didn't know any Scottish people, then you would think it'd been written by a Scottish person and you find it quite funny. But to the majority of people, it's just going to be stereotypical nonsense. People are going to see through it straight away. They're going to know something's off and they might get a bit offended. It's just always best to stick to your own voice. If this is something that you're unfamiliar with and you're not really used to using your voice and putting a bit of personality in your work makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable or a bit weird, A really good way to practice is to write about something that you're really passionate about. And if you're not lucky enough to write for yourself, or if you write for a company and you don't really care about the topics that much, do some practice. Practice about whatever it is that you love and really let your experience and your passion shine through. And you're still going to have to do research. You're still going to have to make sure that it's valuable to the end user. But if you can funnel all of that through your own stories and your own experiences, it's only going to make it more entertaining and more valuable for the end reader. Just remember, don't get too personal. At all times, the reader should feel like you're talking about them and to them. You should never feel like a diary entry where you're just talking about yourself to yourself. So a quick recap, your voice is your personal branding. It's shaped by your experiences and your background, and it helps the reader connect with you. However, if you're writing for a company or a client, you should subdue your personal voice, increase the company voice, which is made up of the company branding, the company's background, values, mission statement, whatever it is that they base it on, and it helps the reader connect with the company.